Do you like silky tones and pendulums? Are you curious about how to craft words to take someone to a state of trance? Or would you like to explore trance as a subject? Well, this is a podcast with a focus on all things hypnotic. My name is Fish the Hypno Bear, and I will be your host. I will share my personal experience and knowledge on how to utilize words, touch, implements, and the environment around you to practice and experience trance, along with other uses for hypnosis. This episode will be delving into some darker areas of hypnokink. We'll be focusing on Fearplay and its use in hypnosis, special considerations, induction types, content to explore, the differences between being in person versus virtual, and aftercare considerations. Now here's a disclaimer before getting too far into this. Everything I speak on is from my personal experience and is not a one-size-fits-all. Anything I discuss will have been done with negotiation, plans for safety, and aftercare firmly in place. I will paint in some broad strokes, keeping in mind that the examples I use are to be customized to both the subject and the test. So if something I say sounds fun, make sure it works for all involved, and if something I speak on sounds unpleasant, you need not explore it. This is advanced level hypnokink, not a starting point, and it is not for everyone. My primary subject does not enjoy most levels of Fearplay, so we don't do it. Simple as that. First, why fear? There's a number of us that enjoy playing with this side of the mind, and there are many layers. It can be light and almost fun, playing with anticipation and surprise, blindfolds and different sensations, making the subject wonder what will come next, but knowing it won't go too far. It can be deeper and darker with interrogation, abduction, and more realistic, but perhaps impractical ideas that are easier to do with mind play than actual abduction. Use of hypnotic, fantastical torture and torment, rather than real devices. Fantasy monsters and journeys into darkness with stories, another method. You can find a Fearplay trance with a relaxation induction on being stalked in the woods by a mountain lion that I've released on SoundCloud. Listeners, exercise caution. The purpose of it is fear. You can also completely baffle the brain with gaslighting and confusion the subject into a deep level of desired discomfort. As with all other things, the options really are endless. I will dive into each of these ideas and welcome additional questions and ideas, but first, some special considerations, and a note on gaslighting. This, if you recall an earlier episode, is a consensual form of mind play that is agreed upon between two or more consenting adults, which allow this level of purposely confusing and making the subject question reality. Again, this is agreed upon, discussed, and desired. Do not do this without full consent. Some special considerations. Many consider hypnosis a form of edge plays itself, so adding in fear play to it can be even more on the extreme side of things. In this case, the point is just that, fear, be it light or incredibly dark. First things to consider is how it will affect not just the subject, but the test. Sometimes playing on the darker side of kink can leave a lasting impression, and if not planned or prepared for, this can cause issues in the present and the future. I advise when working with a subject to know them. Know how their mind works, what especially to avoid, what they need in place to feel safe, and to allow time after, as much as necessary, to provide the pre-negotiated aftercare for both parties. With Fearplay, I ask more questions ahead of time. Just because they want to be scared does not mean they want to be terrified, unless they state they do in fact. Even then, what is on the table? Perhaps they love the idea of being stalked and chased into a dark alley and getting physically tormented and left bound and tied in place. Fantastic. But let's consider some logistics. What is it that tantalizes them about this particular fantasy? Is it the chase? Is it the catch? Or is it what happens next? Perhaps a combination of all three. Everyone is different, and knowing what gets them going helps set the scene. They may be very into the idea of being bound tightly and having the feel of sharp, cold steel against their throat, the sensations and mounting terror of being helpless and in danger. Or it's quite possible the use of an actual edge would put them in an actually unsafe mental space. This needs to be discussed. Here's another possibility. Your subject is into knife play and blood play. That's great if you are too. To be clear, in this instance, we are still discussing mental play, hypnosis, no actual blood being spilled or edges being utilized. Consider, are you into this? Are you comfortable doing that form of trance? I, as a tist, have limits of my own. There are things I will not do, even if my subject really is excited to try. I protect my subject and I protect myself. Keep in mind that everyone's limits vary. Don't push your wants and don't let anyone push theirs on you. This should be planned and explored in a safe manner. The more edgier a kink, the more safety should be in place, including hypnosis. Just because no one's actually been physically touched doesn't mean that there's any less potential risk. So consider, what are we planning? What is on the table? What is off the table? What safeties are in place? What will we do if things go wrong? And what is the plan for aftercare? I also won't personally start with edge play. It's built up to. I want to see how a subject drops normally and experiences and presents in trance before adding the fear elements. Consider this. If you are, whether you're newer or more experienced in the realm of hypnosis, and you've hypnotized more than one individual, note how they react differently when they drop into trance, and how what one method of induction or application will work splendid on subject A, but on subject B, it's ineffective, or it might cause an adverse reaction and cause temporary harm. This is crucial to know when you move into this realm, on what things work, what things don't, and what causes pleasure and what creates pain. Keeping that in mind, let's look at the next part, which will be the induction types, which will include relaxation, overload, and stress, as just 3 of the potential methods that I'll be discussing today. You might be surprised to know that relaxation is an excellent method to be used in Fearplay. It's especially good for story-style trance and gaslighting. Soothing tones and imagery building can set the scene for more of a slow burn, or a build-up with details and anticipation. As before mentioned, I have one example of this currently, The Dark Path, but I have more in the works for the coming year. Here is a brief example of relaxation induction Fearplay. It is the actual beginning of one of my Fearplay trances, so keep that in mind, though it won't go into full drop, it'll just be a few moments here. Some stories have to be experienced. Sometimes it is easy to slip in between the words and drift down into them, becoming the title character. This is such a story of primal fear and danger. Are you comfortable? Good. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. For now, relax. Feel the texture of the surface of your chair or bed sinking into it as you breathe. Let your mind wander as you drift and sink, your body sinking more as you relax, as your thoughts drift and disperse. Each thought being snuffed away like a candle flame and being put out. Breaths naturally becoming deeper, softer, slower. Each breath being pulled in deep inside you and exhaled out into the space around you. Thoughts moving out like smoke being pushed further with each breath out. Now, as you see, that could be reworked in a way to be just a simple relaxation if I focused on different areas. It still looks at breathing, it looks at different sensations, but it takes a darker turn. It makes it more ominous, more foreboding. A slight tonal shift can make all the difference. Instead of, a gentle warmth moving over you, it's the light being snuffed out. There's different things you can do in a same relaxation tone of voice and description that can set up your subject for a scary adventure rather than a relaxing, peaceful one. And that would be a potential way to start. It could be done with the story, it could be done with touch, it could be done with just words and breathing. It's just what specifically you focus upon. For most of mine, when we're doing relaxation style, I do it this way. I do a shift and focus on the darker sides. The next method we'll discuss is overload. This is very good for degradation, sensory play, and major mindfuck. If in person, you can use an actual blindfold and bondage. Now, I advise keeping the mouth free for safety and those wonderful sounds. Having the subject seated in a chair can be especially fun with room to move around, play with sound, footsteps, whispers in different ears, unexpected gentle touches coupled with firmer or sharper ones. Temperature play could be included as well. This can be tied directly into the content or a standalone with the focus on everything happening and setting the mind into a spiral, overloading and collapsing on itself. Exercise with caution. Also, this should be obvious, but I'm going to state it just to cover all the bases. Don't tie someone up unless you know what you're doing. Don't blindfold them and do sensory deprivation if you haven't explicitly planned to discuss this. I recommend in the beginning, if you're going to use actual bondage and physical presence, if you choose a chair, I'd have them fully alert and aware and sit them down. Have them talking with you and aware as you secure them, making sure that they're comfortable and safe, making sure all needs are met, and that you are set for however long this is going to take. That's a good plan to begin with. Now, it's not necessary to tie them up, though. It's just an option to make it more enjoyable, more intense, if that's what works for you. There's many other ways to incorporate a sense of being held in place if you're not one for rope or chain. They make simple leather or fuzzy cuffs. They do all kinds of things. You can be creative. Just make sure you're being safe and covering all your bases. Same thing goes with temperature play, because when you're doing temperature play, sensory and sensations are different. So if you're using ice, it might be a lot more extreme. If you're using warm, it might be a lot more extreme. So I also advise testing these things out outside of trance and seeing where their levels are with pain and different tolerance and sensation. So again, so much fun, but exercise with caution. Protect your subject. Now also, that previous explanation, clearly best in person, can be modified, but it's tricky. So let's discuss better ways for virtual use of overload. I might have my subject gaze into a spiral or other visual stimulation, and they'll be using headphones to focus on my words rather than open speakers. So headphones so they can just hear my words and pick something for them to stare at. Sometimes I'll have them look at me, sometimes I'll have them look at a pocket watch, but if there's a specific thing we have in mind for our trance, it's fun to do that sort of setting and imagery. Could do more ominous style of spiral, or strobes, or pulsing lights. Could be a non-common form of eye fixation with use of moving lights and trees, moving down a path. It can be pretty much anything you want, as long as it gives them something to focus on. One fun thing to do, again, this is assuming all medically safe things are in place, so some people can't do strobing lights, they can't do rapidly changing pictures. So, assuming that your subject is safe to do this, you could do rapidly switching pictures and scenes onto what you're discussing to begin with. Give them various things to look at, which is overloading the visual. At the same time, the sounds. Now, while they're doing this and focusing on my words, I will use different levels of sounds and tonal shifts, going from louder to softer, doing different things with words. I might throw in a bell or a snap. It's just these different things to play with that mind. Key takeaways with any induction: focus on how the subject's mind works and use that in your methods. And for customizing it to the specific trance, for that, what I would do is, if they're in that forest and they're visual, I'm focusing on the haze. I'm focusing on the limited light through the trees, those glowing yellow eyes in the distance. For auditory, it's the low growl, the movement. For people that are more physical sensations, it might be the feel of the cool mist on their skin or the branches and leaves rubbing up against them. You can engage all of these. The smell of moss for those that sense of smell takes hold. know this ahead of time and use that in this induction. The last type of induction to discuss today is stress inductions. Now, these are also very effective in Fearplay with the use of confusion, overload, and degradation, and a level of gaslighting the induction itself could be the full experience, or it could lead to more. This is another method of extreme caution, and I advise practicing with someone who's experienced it already, so a subject or another test that has participated in receiving a stress induction, so know what to expect. And also that you practice experiencing it yourself as the subject. This induction method has a higher likelihood of abreaction, so please be aware of this. An example is myself and a friend both experienced receiving this on different times. I loved it. I thought it was exciting, invigorating, and it just felt good. It was this incredible, intense, fast, and slow feeling at the same time. Now, my friend had a very bad reaction to it. They felt comfortable, near panicked, and it really was a bad time for them. Same test, same method, same situation, two very different experiences. So know your subject and know yourself before you try this. Now, this type of induction involves asking questions and then cutting them off as they're trying to answer. Downplaying their answer, every one of them, and making them feel like every eye is on them. Nothing they do is right, but how nice of them to try. Give little bits of niceness and encouragement, then knock them down again. Don't let them pause or breathe. Move quickly, speaking fast enough that they can barely keep up, and remind them of this. Call attention to how hard it is to focus, and insist they focus. It's a game of cat and mouse where you win and they lose. And they can try but will fail. And make them hyper aware of it. This is a heightened level of degrading, debasement, humiliation, focus. It's like the idea of that nightmare many have where they're left with a test or a performance or something and they don't know their lines, they haven't studied, and not only is it that, but everyone is watching them and they have no choice but to continue, and it's just building on those ideas of that discomfort and stress and overwhelming feelings and words until they just can't take any more and they drop in a very interesting way. Now, those are only a few options of inductions and my personal methods of utilizing them. They are to be customized to fit the participants and the trance itself. My ways are my ways and my experiences. Be aware of that and do with that as you will. Now we're going to discuss the content. This is following the induction and could actually be a part of it or entirely different. With the stress induction, that frequently is the entire experience and followed immediately by aftercare. But it could also be the start of an interrogation scene, or used in a fantasy story with a mad scientist, a vampire, some ethereal being whose intelligence is far beyond that of a human. Once you know that that method works and is enjoyable for both of you, you could go wild with it. You could explore in depth. It could be a whole new experience that works for both of you. Or it could be just the entire thing itself. Relaxation inductions tend to lead right into the content, guiding the subject into the story which builds upon the foundation of the induction. Will this be predator and prey style trance? Begin with the scene. Describe the forest, the paths, how the lights start strong and then fades into the trees. The sounds how they echo and play tricks on the mind. Build the anticipation, the sounds, the sights, the sensations with a strong focus on works best for the subject's mind. And then, even before they're dropped into trance, they are present and prepared and the predator can appear. This could again be done with coming upon a dark house in the middle of the woods. It could be haunted with ghosts that possess the house around them, other occupants. They could approach a lake, and from it there could be tentacles that form and grab and grope and grip. It could be an alien abduction where they're taken from a field up into the sky and used in unspeakable ways. It could be a break-in. It could be anything. The key with that is what I like to do is describe what they see and feel beforehand and take them into that drop, and then once they're fully dropped in whatever way we agreed upon, then I bring in the story. And the overload method can lead into a story trance, or it could be more focused in the present. It is very flexible and can be the focus of the entire experience or just the method to prepare the mind and guide the subject into trance. Now, the plan on what will actually happen. It could be more based in reality. It could be that experience of abduction, interrogation, erotic entanglement of the CNC variety. These are those deep-rooted dark fantasies that could possibly happen, and as a result, extra care should be taken, especially if there will be actual physical touch involved. For words only, the focus will be on the mind, on the fear and the build-up, how each action might feel and sounds, what the impact would be. Some have phantom touch, the ability to actually feel what is described, so be aware of that ahead of time. With actual touch, be it sensual or painful or a combination, the body will register sensation differently in trance versus fully awakened. It might be more or less sensitive. This can make for a very fun time as long as both are prepared. The mind can also be molded to feel more or less in some subjects. A focus on certain areas of the body can make things hit harder, sharper, and longer, or it could make things number. Watch what you're doing, how the body reacts to each touch, and listen for the shifts in breathing, the sounds made, expressions on the face. Know your subject ahead of time and how they react. With both methods, have a conclusive end and move into aftercare. Now let's look at in-person versus virtual. Both are effective with some different precautions needed. Now, a brief note on no subject or unknown subjects. This would be the example of creating a hypnotic file to be released onto the wide world of the internet. You don't know who might come across this. And if you choose to create that file for an unknown audience, you can't fully prepare for the subject. When I do this, which all of my audio files are for an unknown audience, I begin with disclaimers and warnings so they know what they're getting into. And I also keep the not safe for work and edgier files off of YouTube. I generally don't include triggers or anything lasting in my files, and if I do, I warn well ahead of time. So be aware of that if you decide to go that path, and think about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and what you hope your audience will be. This also comes into play with a group trance, be it online or in person. You have multiple people listening, and you can't plan for all of them. So I look at a more generalized manner when I'm doing this, and take plenty of time afterwards to make sure everyone is taken care of. And again, give warning and time for questions beforehand. Now, finally, on aftercare. This is always important, but especially so after intense sessions. This has to be pre-negotiated and planned prior to starting the session. If you can't provide for the subject's needs, do not engage in play, especially with Fearplay. Also, be aware you may need to receive aftercare as well as the test. This can take the test into a darker place, and sometimes we need to be reminded that we are human and not monsters, and that our subjects enjoyed themselves can go a long way towards that. But ensure everyone's needs are met, and check back up on your subjects later that day, the next day, and some days later as well. And keep an eye on yourself as well. There's no shame in deciding this form of trance isn't for you. And even if it is, there will be different levels of it that suit everyone differently. Take care of your subjects and take care of yourself. Side note, most of my episodes focus on the test. Let me know if you'd like more on the subject side of things as well, and I'll put something together. If there's a topic you're interested in learning about, and it falls into the realm of hypnosis, or if you're curious if it might, send me an email or post a comment and I'll add it to the list of topics to cover. If I don't have the experience in it, I'll look for a guest to join me on a future episode. If you like what you hear and would like to support me, you can do so on my Ko-fi, linked in my profile, or my Patreon, which offers a monthly subscription with special perks to follow soon. And also hit that like and subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified of future episodes. On SoundCloud, you'll be able to find some of my hypnotic files, actual trances, with at least one new file planned per month. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's okay to be confused.